I'm taking on one of the toughest challenges in FIFA, winning the Champions League with Athletic Bilbao. And trust me, with the rules that we've got in place, this is going to be one of the hardest saves I have ever done. So first, just like in real life, we can only sign players from the Basque region. This is already one of the toughest transfer policies in football. Second, any Basque players that we sign from Real Sociedad has to use their release clause. We're not going to bid on any of their players, only release clauses, because there's no chance that they would accept any bids in real life. Third, all academy players must have a Basque first or surname or be under the age of 14, just like Griezmann was back in the day. And finally, what I call the Nico Williams clause. If a bid comes in for anyone who's rated over 85 that exceeds their market value, I have to accept it. This means that we could lose our best players when we need them the most, especially further on into the save. Honestly, without that Nico clause, I'd probably end up keeping until he's 40, but rules are rules, and this could be one of the hardest saves I have ever done. Let's have a look at our squad. You already know we've got some really good talent on the wings thanks to the Williams brothers coming through our academy. Our defence is also decent, but DeMarcos and Pachiche are a combined 70 years old, so fullbacks is where our scouts are going to be looking first. We already have Sergio Vergara in our academy, but he's a bit pants and barely passes his Basque. Now, on to tactics, and I've already made two tactics for this team. The first is the default Valverde 4-2-3-1 that Bilbao use in real life, but we're also going to test this 4-4-2 in pre-season. It's very similar to Arteta's system at Arsenal, but mixed with the 4-4-2 that Valverde used at Barcelona. A little fun fact for you as well, Arteta is actually from the Basque region, so I guess even our team sheets are following the Basque policy. So there really isn't that many players we can buy in this first transfer window. We did receive a few bids. Atletico wanted Ruiz de Galarreta, but basically offered no money. Leipzig wanted Inaki Williams, but again, only wanted to give us an older Willy Orban that wouldn't fit into the Basque policy. We also loaned out Padilla, a Mexican Basque player that's going to be our future goalkeeper. So let's also figure out which formation we should be using. We've got two games, one against Newcastle and one against Augsburg. So the first game against Newcastle, I'm going to go with 4-4-2 in this one, but of course things don't go quite to plan. I was feeling quite good, but Isaac decided to turn into prime Ronaldo and he would bag a hat-trick before half-time. We were playing a very high line in this match, so it's probably back to the drawing board on that tactic. Augsburg next up then, and let's go back to the 4-2-3-1. To be honest, straight away, it's better. Nico steps up and bangs a free kick top bins, and Sansei is everywhere, where we totally control the game. We grab a 2-0 win, but we've dominated, and I've got no doubt that we have to use this formation this season. I'm actually interested to know what you think though. Should we stick with the 4-2-3-1, or should we give the 4-4-2 another go later in the season? Drop a comment below and let me know what formation you'd run with. So with pre-season over, it's time to have a look at our first intake, and also try and figure out who's Basque and who we need to sign. We're going to use ChatGPT to decide, and he would borderline let us have Rivero, but he's not ever going to be good enough anyway. The rest of the players in this intake are purely Spanish, so no good for our Bilbao Basque policy. Our Andorra and France scouts also only provide Catalan and French names, annoying, but to be honest, that's totally expected. So this episode, I'll be playing these first three matches. Next episode, we'll cover our Europa League campaign, and the episode after, we'll finish the season and play any cup finals if we do manage to make it that far. I'm assuming we'll need at least 5 years to build a Champions League winning level team, so make sure you subscribe because this is going to be a very long series. Okay, here we go, our first big test of the season against Getafe. They're always a tough team to break down. They play 4-4-1-1 and counter-attacking, and that's such a good combination for the AI to use. But we're at the San Mames, and we need to make this a fortress if we're going to do anything in La Liga. The match kicks off, and it's pretty cagey early on. It just feels like both sides are trying to feel each other out, which is classic Getafe. We're trying to keep possession, but the wind is also really strong, and they're sitting quite deep, so it is tough to get the final ball or the cross right at the end of each move. But then about 20 minutes in, Getafe win a free kick just outside the box, and one moment of carelessness, suddenly Getafe whip it in the top corner. We're 1-0 down, and Mayoral's set-piece delivery was absolutely perfect. It's frustrating, but there's still plenty of time to turn this game around. Second half kicks off, and you can already see the wind is now on our side. Shooting into it is such an advantage, and Getafe are feeling happy just to sit back and hold on to the 1-0. We're pushing them deeper and deeper into their own half. We'll get a few half chances, but Nico can't quite score. And when he does score, he's offside. It's one of the closest calls I've ever seen in a FIFA game, but I'm not actually sure the referee got this one right. Anyway, in the 73rd minute, we get a huge lifeline. Alvaro Diallo bursts into the box, he skins his man and gets taken down. I'm not sure what the defender was thinking with that tackle, but the referee points to the spot, and this is massive. Sancet steps up to take it, deep breath, and slams it into the top corner. The keeper doesn't even have to dive, we're back level, and it's 1-1. The San Mames crowd goes wild, and you can already feel the momentum shifting, but we're not done yet. We stop a Getafe counter-attack before it can get too dangerous. DeMarcos moves the ball up to Berenguer, and then Sancet chips it through to Nico. He cuts inside. Jallo is there, he keeps his cool and slots it past the keeper. Just like that, we've turned it around, it's 2-1 to Athletic Club, and Jallo is absolutely the super sub. A goal and an assist, what a response after half time. After that, we managed the game pretty well. Getafe tried to push for an equaliser, but our defence is way too experienced. It's a massive 3 points, and Jallo's winner could be a turning point in a disastrous pre-season, turning into a pretty decent season in La Liga. In the week between matches, we don't really have to do too much. There's no transfer offers, there's no youth scouts to look at, so we're going straight in again against Barcelona. It's a huge one, and we already know we're not going to outplay them on possession, so we set up pretty defensively and try and aim to hit them on the break as much as we can. If we can keep it tight at the back and fight for a clean sheet, I'll be a happy man with a 0-0. Even on Parc de Bus, we somehow managed to create a couple of chances early on. Ter Stegen had to make a good save from this shot, and there was a moment where we did nearly get in behind, but their defence recovered just in time. That's basically the entire game though. Unai Simon was absolutely on top form and he made a ton of saves. We got a few lucky bounces that led to chances and nothing would really come off. 0-0 might not seem like the most exciting result, but this is going to be a massive point for us. It wasn't about beautiful football, but it's the kind of football that helps you win competitions in Europe. So it's going to be good practice even if the game was kind of dull. So it is still August and we've not had too long to learn about our squad yet, but there is still time to improve it. I think I know just the guy to fix our lack of fullback and lack of centre-back depth. Now, I don't need to tell you who Azpilicueta is. This man has won it all. Premier League titles, FA Cups, the Champions League, and even the Europa League. He's a born winner. And now at 34 years old, he's coming home to the Basque region, and honestly, I was pretty tempted to give him the armband. We're not going to do that though, we'll stick with Inaki Williams as our captain, but Azpilicueta gives us a ton of composure at the back, and realistically, it's like having two captains on the pitch. Okay, so for the last time this episode, we're going to play another match. It's against Valencia, and Azpilicueta is going straight into the team. In fact, straight from kickoff, we are all over them. We knew that Valencia were going to sit deep, and we've had them pinned into their own half for most of the first 45 minutes. In many ways, it was possession football at its finest. Sancet was pulling the strings in midfield, he was spreading the ball out wide to Nico and Inaki, and they were giving Valencia's fullback a real headache. We've had a couple of decent chances, Nico would send one just wide, and Inyaki's pace almost got him through here, but the keeper would make a good save. In fact, we get a corner, and after a couple of them in a row, the ball would drop to Azpilicueta in the edge of the box, and he would smash it off the post. So unlucky. Valencia kept scrambling to clear their lines, and you could feel the tension rising everywhere in the stadium. With about 30 minutes left, Inaki would finally get in and finally beat the goalkeeper, putting us 1-0 up. That was a trademark Inaki inside forward kind of finish. There's no way that any goalkeeper can stop a shot with that much power. So now we just had to hold on for 30 more minutes and we would have our second win of the season. Because they were now behind, Valencia started to attack and it paid off big time with just 10 minutes to go. Unai Simon palming the ball to Unai Gomez. Things were level yet again. We had one last attack with Sancet, but Valencia would get the ball, they would clear it, and I have to say we're pretty disappointed that we only got a point out of this game against Valencia. Alright, so the transfer window is still open and we've got some really big news. Bayern Munich have just come in with a bid for Unai Simon. You already know the rules of this save from the start of this video. If we get a bid for any player rated over 85 that's over their value, we have to accept it. But there's a twist to this one, it's not a cash deal, it's a swap deal. Now, I don't need to tell you this, that Unai is absolutely crucial to the team. He's one of the best keepers in the game, he's Basque, and replacing him would be nearly impossible. But according to the Nico Clause, if we can negotiate this deal and Bayern agrees to play over his market value, I'll have no choice but to accept this offer. This is the most stressful part of the challenge, and here's where I need your help. Drop a comment below and tell me what you would do here. Would you try and squeeze more out of Bayern Munich and take the cash and try and improve the rest of the squad? Or is it too risky to even think about letting Unai Simon go? We tried to respect the Nico clause, meaning we have to accept any bids more than his market value, and even when we negotiated quite close to it but still below his market value, Bayern didn't agree to sign him. Newcastle didn't offer us anywhere near enough to have to accept either, and thank God, we're keeping our goalkeeper for at least the next 6 months. Somehow, we actually survived the transfer window with Simon, Nico Williams and Sancet all in our squad, and boy will we need them, because this episode is going to be fully focused on how we got on in the Europa League. I hope you're ready, because this is going to be a very match-heavy episode, so let's start our Europa League campaign. Our first test came away in Rome against AS Roma. Thankfully, we had noticed that they had already parted ways with Dybala, which did make us feel a little bit more confident about beating them, but still, it was a very challenging opening match. In fact, in the first 5 minutes, Griezmann had a really good opportunity to put us ahead, but couldn't quite convert. A couple of minutes later, Sancet showcased some of his skills. He danced through a couple of defenders and blasted it into the back of the net. 1-0, and it's a big goal in our first game of the group stage. Just before half-time, Unai Simon would prove his worth with a stunning double save, reminding us of exactly why we fought so hard to keep him from going to Bayern Munich. As the clock ticked on, he also came through again in the 71st minute, denying a fierce Roma attack, and somehow we would hold on for a crucial 1-0 win against a Pot 1 opponent. So next up was AZ Alkmaar, who also had the Europa League's top scorer, Troy Parrott. Was he going to be a threat? Probably not. He's not the best player in the world, is he? And our team is so much better than theirs. But to be fair, Troy Parrott did actually cause us quite a lot of threat. He forced a double save from Simon early enough, but it wasn't really enough to rattle us. Bachiche had our first real chance, blasting one over the bar, and shortly after, Sancet would miss another good opportunity. I mean, just look at the shots on this graphic. Surely at least one of these should have gone in the back of the net. We just needed to take one of these opportunities, so when Berenguer played a perfect pass to Inaki, who would outrun Martins Indy, Williams would hammer it into the top corner for a pretty spectacular goal. Honestly, the celebration was even more spectacular. What a flip that was, and we would fight for the rest of the game to keep a second 1-0 win against what turned out to be a very good side. That's a Pot 1 and a Pot 2 side down, and we're another step closer to the knockout round. We also got lucky that our second Pot 1 team was Slavia Prague. They're the worst ones in this pot. It could easily have been Spurs, Man United or Frankfurt. Instead, it's a team that's rated worse than any team in La Liga. Before we play the game though, we actually agree a new contract for Nico Williams. Not only is his buyout clause now over £200 million, but hopefully it will also stop any bids that come in for him in a couple of months' time. To celebrate, I think he probably gave his best performance of the season. Basque was the one that opened the scoring, but he was connecting with Nico's cross before he blasted it past the keeper. Slavia did try to strike back. In fact, they had a 6'9" striker who won this free kick. It was expertly converted to level the score, a second free kick conceded in about the last 10 games. Even though Slavia are one of the highest ranked teams in the competition, we kept pushing and Griezmann would hit the post. Inaki would do a nice cross after some good play, and Sancet would smash it at the keeper from about 6 yards out. It felt like we just weren't going to score this second goal. But finally, Griezmann would play the ball through to Nico Williams, one-on-one, and he would beat the goalkeeper. We went defensive when we had the lead, and held on for a second home win in a row, and a third win in a row in the Europa League. So you might actually be wondering now how we're doing in both La Liga and in the Europa League. Well, let's start off with La Liga, where we have started really well. We're currently in third after 12 games, but we've also only lost a single match. We're also third in the Europa League, and one of only 3 teams to have won all 3 games that they've played. I have a feeling that's going to get extended because there's not many times you can knock a team out of a competition halfway through, especially in this new Europa League format. But that's exactly how bad Drogheda United are. These are always the most fun games in FIFA, and I'm fully going for goal difference here to see if we can end this week in first place of the Europa League. The first goal basically sums up the entire match. It was hilariously bad defending and should have been a Nico Williams goal, but we recycled it and it turned into an Inaki Williams goal. We kept pushing, and despite their goalkeeper actually being really good, turning away shot after shot, we just couldn't get that second goal. Then, out of nowhere, we spotted this run from our centre-back Yure. He joined the attack and showed our strikers exactly how to finish. Serrano would make it 3-0 off the bench by timing his run to beat the offside trap, and Martin would blast it in to make it 4-0. This hilarious goal makes it 5-0, and to make it even better, our players would then celebrate in front of the Irish fans after humiliating their defender. We would settle for 5-0, but really it could have been even more. In fact, both Napoli and Midtjylland have drawn, so now we're fully established as the only team to have won all 4 games in the Europa League. Get in. If we can just get a win and a draw from our next 4 matches, we're into the last 16. If we lose all 4, we're still into the last 32, so we can feel pretty comfortable about our position now. We don't actually have a better chance of winning a game than playing against Elfsborg, and this is a team that's lost 4 out of 4 and actually conceded 3 more goals than Drogheda, even after we stuck 5 past them. Of course, we're going to go for yet another battering, and Sanset's corner kick found Vivian's head, and that was 1-0 up pretty early on. Serrano followed up with an impressive dribble, passing to Ruiz de Galarreta, whose powerful shot did nearly find the net. Elfsborg would win themselves a free kick though in a rare attack, and it was chipped in, and their header hit the post before bouncing across the goal line to be cleared. Elfsborg would continue to find some space on the right wing. This time they reached the byline, they cut it back, their striker dribbles past 3 before tapping it in the far corner. I can't believe it's 1-1 against such a bad team. We have to make a change, so Nico and Inaki Williams come on, and nearly instantly combine for a goal. A few minutes later, Nico would eventually find Berenguer out wide. He would pull it back across the goal, and Inaki would smash it past the keeper into the net. To finish off Elfsborg, Inaki would get the ball on the edge of the box, scoop turn past one defender, and then from nowhere, he would smash it top bins. With our win confirmed, all we need now is 1 draw from our next 3 matches, and we're into the knockout round. We would get that draw in our next game against Fenerbahce, and I felt like we had a pretty decent chance of winning this whole tournament. All we have to do now is try and survive the transfer window with all of our good players intact. So, we are officially going to be signing some players this month, but unless we get a huge bid for one of our superstars, they're only going to be academy players joining the club. That's right, for the first time our academy scouts have found some youth players that legitimately count as Basque, and honestly it's about time. Xavi Gomez and Xavi Reyes are both young enough to count as trained in the region, and there's no doubt that Aitor Sierra is a Basque name. Finally, the club has a new generation of prospects about to come through. That's pretty much all that happens for the first 3 weeks, and I don't know why I was so worried about losing any of our players. We've made it to the 22nd without actually receiving a single bid for a single player, and if we fast forward to deadline day, it finally happens. We receive a bid for Unai Simon from Atalanta, and I don't know how they've got this much money, but please can his market value be higher than this? So we head over to the squad hub. His value is £50 million. The offer is £65 million. The Nico Clause is activated, and we have to accept this deal. I actually decided to negotiate it a little bit higher so we can have some money for the summer transfer window, but our most consistent and probably most important player is going to be leaving just before the end of deadline day. We could always sign someone like Kepa when his loan ends, he's still kinda high rated, but until then we'll just have to use Julian Aguirre-Zabala instead. With 8 hours left, please can we not get a late bid for Nico as well? In fact, 2 bids come in, Berenguer and Vivian, but they're both bad offers and both get rejected. The clock would keep running down, and somehow we had survived with Nico, probably due to us offering him that new contract a few months ago. Okay, so let's get straight back into the Europa League, and we've left off with 2 games in the group stage left to play. We actually won both of them and got drawn against Victoria Pilsen in the round of 16. Victoria Pilsen aren't the best team in the world, but before we've even really settled into the match, Pilsen's forward would smash one off the crossbar, and our keeper couldn't get to the rebound. They would volley it home, and less than 3 minutes in, we're already 1-0 down in the knockout rounds. So it's definitely not the start we were hoping for. But we can definitely still fight back. In fact, Berenguer would pick up a lucky deflection in the midfield. He would beat his man, and then run clear. It was just him versus the keeper, and he doesn't miss. He slots it past them, and we're back level. The rain is actually making it so hard to get into our usual rhythm though, and we're forced to defend quite deep. Out of nowhere, we mistime a tackle in the box, the referee points to the spot, it's a penalty to Pilsen. They would convert it, and all of a sudden we're down 2-1 yet again. Things get even worse when Nico Williams has to go off because of an injury. He's been lively, even if he is inconsistent, but as he was forced off, we brought on Inaki instead. It doesn't take long for him to have an impact. Inaki would time his run perfectly and latch onto a through ball from Sanset. His Travada shot would curl just inside the far post. It's 2-2, all square again, and we're back in the fight. A few minutes later, Pilsen's Durasinmi finds some space on the counter-attack. He manages to control the ball really well in the rain, and then buries the finish. It's 3-2, and the clock ticks down. We're throwing everything forward trying to make this 3-3. Serrano has a late shot blocked, and Sanset's last effort just whistles past the post. The final whistle blows, and we're left with a narrow loss. It's a tough result, but we're just going to have to regroup for the second leg that's back at San Mames. If we look at our squad, we're actually going into the second leg looking kinda weak. Nico Williams, Sanset and Vivian are all unavailable, but we should still be better than Pilsen, and all we need to do is score 2 goals and we're in the quarterfinals. We kick off with the same tactics we used against Drogheda, going attacking early on, and Bachiche would flick a long ball down to Berenguer, who would smash a shot at goal only for the keeper to tip it wide. Hopefully good goalkeeping isn't a sign of things to come. Finally, we get an even better chance. Berenguer would find Bachiche on an overlapping run, he drills a low cross across the box, and Unai Gomez arrives at the far post to tap it in. It's 3-3 on aggregate and we're level. You can't afford any mistakes, so Pilsen responding with a long-range effort took a really good save, but we're still level in this match. The game is actually really tense. You can tell both teams are pushing for the winner. Sanset would have a long shot from distance that the keeper just about managed to keep out, but we keep on pressing. And then from a corner, yet again Guruzzetta rises the highest and heads it in. We're ahead on aggregate for the first time in this tie. It feels like the stadium goes up another level of volume and you can feel the momentum all of a sudden in the squad. Just when it seems like I'm going to settle for a 1-goal cushion, Inaki would seal it with this stunner. He flicks the ball over the defender's head and volleys it past the keeper on the bounce. Aguirre Zabala keeps his composure in the last couple of minutes, and he was so important to keeping this clean sheet and getting us through to the quarter-finals. So, we've made it this far while technically only losing 1 match in the Europa League. This is going to be a massive night in Turkey against Fenerbahce, of course a club managed by none other than Jose Mourinho. You could tell right from the start that he'd got the tactics spot on. One of Jose's former players, Azpilicueta, would make an error off the ball and he would bring down a Fenerbahce player in the box. The referee immediately points to the spot and Nesri steps up, but Aguirre Zabala is equal to it, diving low to make a crucial save. But Fenerbahce don't let up. They're moving the ball around so quickly with some really good one-touch football, and St. Maximin finds some space but misses the target. It's a let-off, but just a couple of minutes later he gets a chance to make up for it. After some flowing passing, he finishes neatly and we're down 1-0. This is turning out to be one of the toughest matches I've ever played in FIFA. Their pressure keeps mounting, and En-Nesyri, who missed the penalty, manages to score from close range after some more quick build-up. We're now 2-0 down, and it's starting to look pretty bleak. I don't want to point any fingers, but Nico Williams is having one of the worst matches of the season. Even the EA graphics team noticed that he's off his usual form. But could we get a lifeline? We're pretty good from corners, and yet again Guruzzetta rises above the Fenerbahce defence and heads it in. 2-1 and we're back in this tie. We do make some late subs, including taking Nico off after his stinker of a game, but Fenerbahce would hold strong, and that means yet again we're heading into the second leg needing a pretty big performance. I mean, to be honest, the only thing I really wanted to see before this game was the weather forecast. We're an awful team in the rain, it totally stops our passing football, and this game was going to be in the dry. Let them try and gegenpress us here, we'll find all of their gaps. It didn't take long after kickoff to see that our play was so much more fluid. In fact, the first real chance of the game fell to Nico Williams, but he was offside as usual. I guess at least the shot was saved anyway, but we're making so many chances, mainly from Inaki, and his low cross causes a mix-up, but it was just about claimed by Livakovic. In fact, Livakovic was on top of absolutely everything. First of all, Nico would cut inside and smash one from the edge of the box, but Livakovic had it covered. And then Livakovic would stop Bachiche, and finally Sanset. All of these could have been goals. With time ticking down, we decide to throw on all of our attacking options. Super Sub Jallo from the first game of the season comes on. He immediately cuts inside, unleashes a fierce shot, but again, Livakovic is there. Every shot, every chance, Livakovic is stopping absolutely everything, but we're still pushing. Inaki would play a clever ball through to Jallo, who's one-on-one, but once again, Livakovic pulls off another great save. Fenerbahce would go on the counter, and En-Nesyri would skip past a couple of our defenders. He would end up one-on-one with our goalkeeper in the dying moments, and he does what we couldn't and slots it in the corner. It's all over. It's 3-1 on aggregate, and our Europa League journey is going to end in Turkey. There's no way to describe this match as anything other than a Jose Mourinho masterclass. The rain beat us in the first leg, and Livakovic was the deserved man of the match in the second leg. I wasn't expecting to win the Europa League, but what a tournament we had. We've learned a lot about this club, about knockout football, and most importantly, how to win games. We'll need all of this knowledge next season if we can qualify for the Champions League. In fact, next episode, we'll be finishing our La Liga campaign and maybe even signing a few players for Season 2. We've got 6 big games coming up, including against Real Madrid, a Real Sociedad rivalry game, and a last game of the season finish against Barcelona. But I'll need your help to help find some players good enough for our team. Let me know in the comments if you have any ideas and subscribe so you don't miss it. So this is it, the last 6 games of the season, and we've got 3 huge matches with the Spanish champions, our biggest rivals and our local rivals at first, and then we end the season with 3 games that could define everything we've done so far. But where is the drama coming from for this final episode of the season? Well, sure, we mathematically can't win the league, but we can easily slip into the Europa League spots. I think we'll need at least 12 points from these 6 matches to guarantee Champions League football next year, and I think the best way to start this episode would be getting 3 points at the Santiago Bernabeu. These are the games that we play career mode for, and in Spain they don't get much bigger than playing against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. This match is called El Viejo Clásico, or the Old Classic, Athletic Club versus Real Madrid. We share a lot of history, we have a fairly big rivalry, and also a pretty similar future with both of us in the Champions League next season. What better way to measure how far we've come so far than to compare ourselves against the best team in the world? If we're going to do anything in this match, it's going to come from one of the 2 Williams brothers. We're trying exactly that from the start, and just 5 minutes in, Sanset would toe poke a shot towards the top corner only for Courtois to tip it over. Madrid would respond as Mbappe would find space. He would pull it back for Bellingham, who would fire a rocket at Aguirre-Zabala, but thankfully he's up to the challenge this time. Madrid would win the corner, and somehow Boyro would outjump Rudiger, but Madrid would regain control of the ball. Valverde would capitalise on the rebound and smashes it home, a near post for a 1-0 lead. Just as we thought it would, our spark is coming from Nico Williams. He goes past Carvajal and tries to go past Rudiger, but the finish just about evades him. To be honest, Madrid's physicality is slowly wearing us down. In the second half we lose both Bachiche and Vesga to injury, forcing a double substitution. Losing those 2 players is quite a big change, and Madrid are going to try and quickly take advantage of our change, and we're 2-0 down. It feels like a bit of a mountain to climb, but we're not out of this game just yet. In fact, right from the restart, we press on. Sanset would thread it to Nico down the left. He would run to the byline, send in another low cross, and his brother's on the other end of it. We're 2-1 now, and we're totally back in this match. While Nico Williams is having a really good game, Mbappe is having an absolute stinker. Nothing seems to be working for him. He tries again here, but his shot deflects out for a corner. Real Madrid were actually dangerously close to scoring a 3rd goal from a corner in the same game, but this time Aguirre-Zabala gets it clear. The ref would blow for the end of the game, and while this is a disappointing result, it's a pretty predictable start to our finale. This year we've lost 4 out of 4 to Real and Atletico, and that is going to have to change if we want to ever win this league. To be fair, to beat those kind of teams, you need a really good squad and an even better starting 11. Of course, we're quite limited in the ways we can actually improve our squad, and we've not spoken about our academy for quite a while. But after finding it tough for the first couple of months, our scouts are finally providing some decent Basque players. There's no doubt in my mind that the Arne brothers have a Basque surname, and ChatGPT fully agrees with me. ChatGPT also agrees that Ibai Vargas, Andoni Silva and Xavier Romero are all solid Basque players, and all of a sudden, we have a pretty good generation of young talent coming through. For the 3rd time this season, we win a youth tournament with our academy, and I can already tell that some of these players are going to be superstars. Anyway, back to adult football, and while Real Madrid away might have been the toughest game of the season, Sociedad is the one that the fans want us to win the most. They have weakened a lot over the past 12 months. Oyarzabal has moved to Arsenal, and Brais Mendes has moved to Atalanta, but that doesn't mean they don't have a threat that can hurt us. As usual, we start the game really well, keeping possession and looking dangerous, Nico would win as a free kick early on, and Inaki would be the one that steps up with plenty of power. His free kick's tipped onto the crossbar, and the ricochet falls quite kindly for Sociedad as their keeper catches it quite easily. A few minutes later, Nico tries to beat Odriozola and then wins it back immediately. Williams passes it through to Guruzzetta, who drops his shoulder, skips past Zubeldia and squares it for Sunset to finish into an empty net. What a start that is, even if it's not the best goal we've scored this season. Bachiche later on plays it through to Williams, who leaves Odriozola on the floor. He cuts it back to Guruzzetta, who's cynically brought down just outside the box by Aguerd. That is a clear red card. We now have a free kick on the edge of the box. This time Nico Williams is the one shooting and he only hits the wall. Sociedad tried to play out from the back, but Inaki wins it back, feeds it to Sunset, and his shot is tipped over the bar by Ramiro. After the break, Sociedad tried to respond, and it's Sukic who finds Sadik. He holds off two defenders and beats Aguirre-Zabala to score and level it at 1-1. Just a couple of moments, Sadiq plays in Sukic, who chips the goalkeeper, and out of nowhere, it's now 2-1 to Sociedad. We keep attacking, we can't lose this game. It's a shame that neither of these guys who've just scored against us are Basque, because they're exactly what we need coming off our bench. Sunset would have a power shot saved from the edge of the box by Ramiro, and just after, a throw-in would put Guruzzetta in behind. He tries to finesse it into the far corner but can't quite do it, and all of a sudden it's the 88th minute. We still haven't found a goal, but we can cause a scramble on the edge of the Sociedad box. Somehow, the ball would bobble out of the scramble towards Nico, and he makes no mistake with his finish. What an end this game is going to have. We tried to clear the ball, hoping for one last attack, but the game would end 2-2. It was such an enjoyable game, super fun, lots of drama, and another point towards our Champions League spot. So, with 4 games to go now, we have another local rivalry. This one's also kind of a scouting mission because Alaves are going to produce Basque players just like us. Quite a few of their squad are signable for us, so I'm going to make sure to double check the background of anyone who looks decent in this match. We're fully expecting to win as well, and that win would basically cement us in the top 4, so let's try and get it. So we start strong, as always. Sunset picks the ball up, plays a perfect pass through to Inaki, who finishes it really confidently and makes it 1-0. A couple of minutes later, Sunset would attempt a long-range trivela. It's maybe not the right decision or quite as effective as he hoped, but still worth a try. Nico tries a shot from a tight angle as well, but it's saved, and we keep the pressure firmly on Alaves. Eventually, they have to push forwards because they need to try and win this game to avoid relegation, and eventually they do actually have a few chances. Aguirre-Zabala stands tall with a big save, but eventually Nico breaks free from halfway. He does a couple of step overs and picks out Guruzzetta, who despite being injured, actually finishes really well in the top corner to make it 2-0. We don't stop there either. There's a beautiful piece of possession play that ends with Guruzzetta moving it through to Nico. He chips it towards Guruzzetta again, and eventually Inaki leaps like a salmon to head it home. We need to start thinking about Season 2 as well, so I decided to sub off our best players and give some prospects some game time. One of these prospects is our Mexican backup goalkeeper Padilla. Almost straight away, Padilla had to make a really good save to keep the clean sheet, but we would hold on for a fairly easy 3-0 win. Alaves had more threat than we expected, and it's sad that we're going to lose another Basque team to the 2nd division, even if this Romuald Jacode social media clown doesn't quite agree with me. So, it's time to go back to where we began. The first 3 games of episode 1 are also our final 3 games of episode 3. We have Getafe up first, followed by a surprisingly successful Valencia team, and a big finale against Barcelona. The big news here is that we can actually secure Champions League football if we win and they don't. It's not even that big of a deal if that happens because we're playing against them in the next match anyway. Getafe are still using the same annoying 4-1-4-1 counter-attack formation that makes things really tough for us. Our one advantage is the amount of time we've had between games. We can rotate our squad and they can't, so we have a really good fitness advantage. In fact, it's a pretty dead first quarter of the game. Getafe had some attacking possession after a corner, and there was even a penalty shout for them right here, but that's never ever going to get given. Guruzzetta would eventually intercept a pass like he loves to do. He would send it through to Nico, and he was denied by Claudio Ramos. Early in the second half, Diego Rico would do one of the most pointless red card challenges of all time, and we really have to take advantage of this. We do a nice slick bit of tiki-taka between Sunset, Berenguer and Guruzzetta, and it ends with Guruzzetta firing the ball into the roof of the net to make it 1-0. We continue to dominate the rest of the game. Serrano gets a chance after a nice flick turn, but he gets one-on-one and chooses the totally wrong finish. The game eventually ends 1-0, and the important thing is that we've secured the win, with Valencia also winning. While we haven't qualified for the Champions League just yet, all we have to do is avoid losing 8-0 in the next match. Surely even we can do something like that. Now, I was actually very shocked when I noticed Valencia's position. They do have a very good and quite fast team, and that's always going to be a worry. They snatched a late draw against us in game week 2, so let's give them payback and win to secure our top 4 finish. Richarlison is their key man, and I actually really like that move. It seems fairly realistic from both Spurs and Valencia. It wasn't that shocking to see them sitting this deep. Valencia were challenging our fast counter-attacking team to try and pick them off with risky passes, and we nearly did that in the first 5 minutes, but Inaki didn't quite get the finish right. The wind in this match was actually insane, and that might be a reason why the sunset volley curled just wide a few minutes later. But then, we make a mistake. We intercept a through ball and end up passing it straight to Rafa Mir. With his finish, he's made no mistake, but are we on track for that 8-0 loss? We were so confident at the start of this game, but now we're resorting to shots like this from Sunset. We need to get a grip on this game if we want to have any chance of a draw. We need some magic, and Nico's the guy that can do this. He cuts inside from the edge of the box, he beats his man, and curls one into the far post. We deserve that equaliser, but will Valencia actually attack and open up the match for us now? Well, they get a corner, but it's a really bad effort. The ball is eventually cleared to our man up front, Prados, and he turns his man. He has Inaki running alongside him. If he can get this pass right, he's definitely through. Suddenly, Inaki is one-on-one. He tries to fake the keeper out and eventually rolls it into the far corner. It's a pretty bad goal, but it's a really good counter-attack, and this second goal seems to really annoy Valencia, because straight after, we need Aguirre-Zabala to make a really good save from a fierce Rafa Mir shot. With the clock ticking away, Valencia have possession on the left wing. They'd pull it across to Richarlison, and he would hit it near post, off the post, and it would bounce away to a Bilbao defender. It's a very stressful last 20 minutes, but we hold on to make it 4 wins in a row, and we qualify for the Champions League in the process. We're the most informed team in the league by far right now, and it's a shame that the season only has one more match. But what a big game that one last match is going to be. So, with the title really far out of reach for Bilbao, our place in the Champions League is secured, and we're purely playing this game to see how far we've come since the start of the year. It's been a long season, and we've had to fight for basically every point. We've found some players in the academy that we're proud to call Basque, and we're going to be using some of them in this game today. Aitor Sierra, welcome to the first team. Arnai is also called up and making his debut, and it's a proud moment for everyone related to either of them. They're given the ultimate welcome by the Basque footballing family, but can they stop Barcelona's own academy boys? Sure, Pedri, Gavi and Kubasi are on the bench today, but we know that we have a good chance of winning this game on the counter-attack. Imagine making your debut playing against someone like Alphonso Davies or trying to stop Rafinha. Well, that's exactly what these academy players are doing today. Nico early on tried to show them how they can score a goal in La Liga, but he couldn't quite outpace Koundé. Not for the first time this season, we were relying on our goalkeeper, and Aguirre-Zabala made a huge save to deny Lewandowski's toe poke. Could Aguirre-Zabala actually be better than Unai Simon was? Well, Barcelona kept attacking, and in the 22nd minute, Lewandowski hits a banger from outside the box that no one could have stopped. It's one of those goals that you can't even be mad at conceding. And not long after, Lewandowski tried another very similar shot that just missed the far post. After the break, we decided to push forwards and stop trying to counter-attack, and Nico would spot a gap for Arnai. His cross is perfectly met by Guerrero, and the volley could easily have been goal of the season, but not quite this time. In the 70th minute, we bring Inaki and Bachiche on for the 2 academy graduates, and this is actually Bachiche's last game before he retires. He wasn't part of our next attack though. That was where Guerrero would intercept the ball really high. He would play a perfect through ball to Inaki, but his shot is denied yet again by Ter Stegen. We even switched to a 4-2-4 for the last 5 minutes, going full kick and rush, but we still can't make an attack stick. Barcelona would win, and our 4-match winning streak comes to an end, but so does a fairly successful season. So that is our first season completed, and I think deep down I knew that possibly could be Nico Williams' last game for Athletic Club. I mean, realistically, someone is going to offer over £100 million for him this summer, right? So maybe it's time to think about future signings. I still think Griezmann is out of our league and a little bit unrealistic, as he was Atletico Madrid's top scorer. Aymeric Laporte is another signing that I'm kind of hesitant to sign, because centre-back is the one area we actually have some depth. Leave some comments if you've got any ideas of players we should sign, because if you don't, we'll probably end up spending a ridiculously huge amount on someone like Odriozola at Sociedad, or trying to find out if Rodri's Man City pre-gen has come through with a super Basque sounding name. There's so many ways I can improve this team, but the restrictions make it very, very tough, and we're only just getting started on a pretty fun journey. So next time, we'll be starting our second La Liga campaign, and I can promise you that we will be signing a few players in the summer transfer window. Like I said, I still need your help to try and find players good enough for this squad, so let me know in the comments if you have any ideas. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss season 2, and if for some reason this is the first one of the series that you've watched, make sure you go back and watch the other 2 episodes by clicking the link that's on the screen right now. But thanks for watching, really appreciate it. I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.